Hey, it's Ryland McEvoy, and welcome to The Creative Frame. On today's episode, we're joined by Hamilton-based award-winning production designer and creative producer whose work can be found in film, television, commercial, and digital media around the world on a global scale. She's collaborated with major networks like Hallmark, Lifetime, Vice, and Crave with over 30 feature films, 50 music videos, and hundreds of digital projects under her wings. Today, she's going to chat with us about how she transforms what she reads into what she sees, and what it really takes to succeed in production design across different types of media, and how her journey from the performing arts led to her international recognition, including a film that made it to the International Cannes Film Festival. All this and more with Sarah Nicole Lang on The Creative Frame.
You're listening to The Creative Frame with Ryland McEvoy.
So you're originally from Nova Scotia, now based in Hamilton, Ontario. You have a great career that spans between film, theater, commercials, digital media, and production design that has been seen on a global scale. Before we dive into your career, I would love to hear what personally sparked your interest in creative storytelling and the performing arts.
Yeah, wow. My mother would say that at the age of 2, there was 6 children playing in the basement. I loved Barbies. I loved playing with toys. A huge part of what I love about the arts is storytelling and the way that you craft a world, think about a world, and deepening the idea of a character or a story or a motif that we're telling to an audience. And I felt that probably as long as I could ever read. So I think that storytelling for me was always a deep passion, and it took me a while to kind of figure out where that was going to go. That ended up with theater as an early age, film at an early age, and then creating a film club with a bunch of friends.
That's fantastic. I wish I had such a similar thing. Growing up, I wasn't very much in storytelling, but I was always interested in stories. So it's great to see that somebody is capable of doing that. Going back to mentioning that you did acting before, I noticed you have a career in theater and history from Queen's University and an MFA in directing from the Actors Studio, or the Actors Studio Drama School. Did taking the studies help shape your approach to the creative process in the industry?
Oh, absolutely. I can't say enough good things about going to school. I know that we're in an age where a lot of people want to learn online, and I think that a huge part of what I do today is learning online. But having the tools, having the resources, learning the theories behind strategy of art, the history of art, how it connects all of us, it's such a huge difference in what you share with people, in how you think about story, knowing, you know what I mean, the run from like ancient Greek theater all the way through up to Tennessee Williams to August Wilson and modern day playwrights inform how we share stories and what we find innately human in storytelling. So I think that going for an MFA, learning from some like the greatest teachers of all time, like I got to sit down with Elizabeth Kemp, who was Bradley Cooper's acting coach. I had 2 full years with Susan Aston, who, you know what I mean, was James Gandolfini's acting coach for The Sopranos. Like, just, you know what I mean, Andreas Menelikakis was a directing professor of mine. Being a lifetime member at the Actors Studio and the directing track is phenomenal. I've been very fortunate to bring back in work. So the opportunity to go to school and meet like-minded people. School is one of those moments where you get to be with the like-minded people that think like you and have ideas in the things that you're interested in. It really is this moment in your life when you get to be with the same 10% of people that are all driving towards one thing. And I think that's so important as an artist to kind of like find your tribe and find where you sit with people. And I think that informs your storytelling and kind of your whole career trajectory. It gives you that foundation to push you forward.
And all of that would help you with your process of researching and for your various productions that you design for, where you get your various props, how people look in front of the camera in a mirror to themselves, to others, how their rooms look, their environments look, all sorts.
Yeah, I think getting an MFA really taught me to think about art as more than just something on a stage, but art in life, I had a really incredible design professor, Sean Lewis, who had us do assignments that dealt in installation art or in politically charged art, things that were outside of theater, dealing in photography and understanding cinematography and lines, movement, how to edit, my ability to synthesize a room. I would submit photos that were massive wides with so much stuff in them, and she would push me to focus on what is the moment, what is the thing. And for me, that clarified so much as an artist, and that was so far past what you expect to learn in school, and that it drives my process today. So learning strong process or ways of dramaturgy, I was fortunate to learn from Bill Coco in regards to dramaturgy. You know what I mean? He broke down Brecht's books. You know what I mean? He's one of the first people to go to East Berlin and wait at the Berlin Wall every day.
Wow.
To read Brecht's books. Like, incredible understanding of how you research and how you transcribe and how you take art from one form to the next. So even in the form of like questions in a podcast, and shaping the way that we think about information and translate that as part of our craft, part of our skill. Learning those processes from people that quite literally have written the books, have made the work, so informative to what I do today, and I try to pass that on. Making the connection, you brought up prop houses, making the connections of like where to find stuff, that was something that was like boots on the ground learning. So that I found that that's a huge jump between what you're learning in the classroom versus how you actually execute those things. So time management, timelines, production schedules, that's all stuff that came later. They came innately at the time, but definitely fine-tuning those processes. I'm tuning them every show. Every show I'm picking up something new. Every time I'm doing something differently. It's constantly testing what works, and I think that that's an important thing to remember as an artist too, is that your process should change. The way that you synthesize work should grow. It should be different.
Because you can eventually look back at what you've done previously and believe that you could have done better if you had done it the newer way you found.
Oh, 100%. I look back on some of the first movies I have designed and I cringe. It like hurts my brain because there are so many things that, you know, had I known what I know now, I would do completely different.
That's fair. Some of the creative works that I've done in the past, I look back and I go, I could have done this thing better just by tweaking a little things here and there.
Yeah. And I think that that's growth as an artist. You know, that is part of what you're looking for too, right? You hope that your best work is always yet to come, not something that's behind you.
That's fantastic. So when you go ahead and design different sets, locations, productions, how often does the design of a project play a major role in storytelling?
I mean, I think every story is different. And so every design board, every mood board, you're starting from scratch, right? You're reading that script and you're figuring out who are these people, who is this world. If it's a commercial, you're figuring out who is the client, what is the voice of the client, what is the message they're trying to send, what is the offering coming from that company, how are they approaching it. So I think that that's really like the core initial things that I dig into, and then build out from there. And then it's a lot of lists and tech. It's a lot of design and thinking of the creative elements and going as far as you can in every direction, whether that's graphics, props, aesthetics, sets, like go as far as you can in all directions, to try to get everybody on the same page. Try to throw that net as wide as you can, and distill down what's really important and what can kind of be let go of. And I think that's going to bring your message home.
So, with a design filmography that includes more than 30 featured films to date and more than 50 music videos and over 500 short-form content pieces that span across multiple social media platforms, including YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, to name a few, how do you begin the process of translating a script from words on a page to a visually interesting world?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is one of my favorite things to do and something I teach usually in week 1 of my course. I like to do my first pass of a script really comfy cozy. And that's for like anything, whether that's a treatment that I'm reading for a music video, a commercial, you know what I mean? I want to be comfy, cozy, happy. I want to take that piece of work and I want to read it with the best case scenario in mind. We live in an age where our phones blow up, we're on the subway, we're on the train, we're on the bus, there's screaming children. There's distractions literally everywhere you look, but I think when you're deciding whether or not you're going to work on something and what you're creating with that thing, you have to give it your full attention, or you're not really making a decision. You're letting your mood or whatever else is in the room with you impact your actual impression of that art. And it's really important when you're picking contracts, when you're choosing what kind of art you're going to make, that you're getting a real understanding of like what you're diving into, because your job as a designer is to build out that world. So what is the time sink or the emotionality that you're going to jump into for the next 6, 8, 10, you know what I mean, 6 months to a year contract. And I think that for me, knowing that right off the get, that has informed so much of my process for what I take on, what I make, and how I start designing. Because I won't pick shows easily where I have to deal with murder every day for 6 months. So like the true crime shows are not for me.
Because that would take a toll on your mind.
Yeah, it does, because then late at night you're thinking about like what murder weapon did so and so kill so and so with, and would it look like this or would it look like that, and your search history is crazy. So I think that there's a real line for me personally, and I learned that in grad school. I worked on a show where I dealt with a Ted Bundy type case for 6 months, and all I was doing was rewatching those tapes, and it was right around when the documentary came out and then the biopic came out, and I could have like said verbatim every episode at that point in my life, and I just remember going so numb, and I know I never really wanted to go back to that. So now I'm really specific about where I want to be, what I want to take on, what are the worlds I want to build. So things in the sci-fi world, I love it. Things in the Christmas world, the Hallmark world, I think those are so fun, so beautiful, so pretty. I love stuff that goes to the immersion room and on a wall. But with my process, I then read a script. I'm then going to take it for a second read. I'm going to start breaking it down. So this is my highlight round. So I go through and I tag every single thing that I see that's written practically in the script, whether that's a set, a prop, a dressing, a background prop, a graphic, a digital graphic. Those go in separate categories. Transportation, a stunt, makeup, a hair thing, where wardrobe and props cross over. So whether that's a bag or a t-shirt that rips or something that we change over, maybe it's a watch. I start tracking all of those items. I then start to think about building mood boards and concept boards. I'm kind of doing that simultaneously in this big master tracking document that I use. And I start thinking about like the world and the collaboration. And usually by this point, I'm talking to a director about what's their vision, what's their direction, what's kind of inspiring them. Are there colors, sounds, ideas that they like to use? Are there certain films they want to stay away from? Are there things that drive them? I have a director I work with who loves to send me a painting. He will pick a different artist every movie we work on, and he will be inspired by that painting, and it will carry the essence of a film. So I start to look for like, where are those notes? And then from that, I'm into the design world. And then hopefully somewhere in the middle, I build out a budget, but I'm also starting to look at locations with a locations manager. And so then that kind of moves me into the second phase of what could our world be based on where we are? And then where does that take us? And then that kind of distills down into renders and final budgets. So it's what is the wish list of the director and the creative over here? And what does our budget actually support over here? So I like to think that I'm kind of the marriage of two minds with that, of like, creatively, I'm trying to satisfy the directors, every wish, what they want to do. Let's figure out how to tell this story to the absolute best possible extent. However, the other side of that is I am completely and 100% accountable to this producer over here who's telling me what's within and out of scope, right? They're going to tell me what the money situation is. How much money do we actually have to spend to make our dreams and realities come true? And so I like to say to my producers is that it's not my job to say no. It's my job to offer solutions. So I will offer them budget solutions in regards to A, B, and C, but that sometimes impacts creative decisions, or vice versa, that the creative wants something so badly over here that we must make a budget concession on the other side.
Pivoting from working on different productions for other people, I noticed you recently began the formation of a business called Trinex Productions, a production company that specializes in demo reels, short films, and vertical series. How has creating Trinex production shape your perspective on getting a whole production crew together and all the different budgets and various things that go into creating all that?
So funny enough, that's kind of where I started. I started many, many moons ago working in music and was a stage manager and was trained up by now one of the heads of Live Nation kind of in management. And so that started, oh gosh, then I was like 14. I volunteered every summer. I couldn't wait to work behind the stages. And then by the time I was 18, I was helping coordinate transport. By 19, I was managing stages. You know what I mean? By 20, I was working on the programming committee. So I really, really took to management and to production scheduling early. Simultaneously, I was directing and managing all the productions in schools and for improv teams and for rehearsals. And as I moved on to Queens, I made a film club with two of my best friends. We still all see each other, which is kind of amazing. Almost, you know what I mean, 10, 15 years later, I feel very lucky that that's kind of where we are. I get to see them tomorrow, actually, at an alumni event,
Wow.
which is really great. But we produced 75 short films and a feature before we graduated. And I produced a lot of those things kind of out of necessity at the time, that we just needed somebody that could organize and manage. But that quickly moved into like actual real producing for music videos, for commercials, for production management, for a foray into assistant PMing in the long format world. So that's kind of always been in my nature. I just at one point decided that I'd rather get yelled at for art things like Christmas trees than overtime. So I sort of took a step back from the producing world for a really, really long time, but knew that that was something that I wanted to get back to at some point. So I think Trinex sort of came out of necessity, where Tor York was starting to get into the world of producing, but I didn't think that that was kind of the right fit for what we were doing with Tor York. So we sort of made a company that specializes in what do we need as a production house? What do we need in the actual filmmaking of something just past the development? Because I really wanted to make sure that we don't lose the things that make Tor York special in regards to development, creativity, working on pipelines for actual story structure, because I think that's what we're seeing is missing right now in the creative elements. Is we see so many scripts that come in that we spend so much time in prep, and we lose so much time in prep of actual development of who are these characters, what is their arc, what journey do they go on, where is our first kiss moment, where is our all is lost moment, where are these building blocks of how we make a solid script. We're getting scripts that come in that like need entire rewrites or like aren't structured in their acts. So that has always been the big focus of Tor York, is making sure stuff is structurally sound and visually interesting when it goes out the door. Whereas Trinex came out of the necessity of a production angle and what do people need in regards to a pipeline, and especially in this rise of the vertical drama, which I think for the last 3 years we really saw everybody like poo-poo, and now everyone has realized that everybody's walking around with a TV in their pocket now. It's not what it was 15 years ago. Everybody sits around and watches Survivor at 8 p.m. on Thursday night.
Yeah.
It is now, you can watch whatever the heck you want at any given time from your phone in your pocket. And that can be on the train, on the plane, on the subway, on the bus.
I could be in bed at 3 a.m. if I wanted to, watching something.
That's exactly it. And the reality is, people don't want to flip their phones. And there's something very interesting about this short form content to people. You know what I mean? Influencers are interesting. Short videos on TikTok are interesting. These little bite-sized episodes are interesting to people. And we're seeing some amazing stuff come out of China and Asia. We're seeing a lot of remakes that happen over here. This is something that I was actively interested in 3 years ago when I saw it first pop up. So I think we're seeing a new age of media come forward. And I'm excited about that. And I think that that's so fun. So Trinex also specializes in dealing in that new age of media. And again, that's something that sort of came out of Tor York and about the social media aspects that we were experiencing in Tor York, is that I was getting so many clients coming in asking for how to frame media, how to think about their social media presence, building out branding packages, that we wanted something that could execute those packages for people. Both as actors that were coming to me for advice of like what should they be making in the demo reel sense, clients that were coming to me in regards to what did they need in regards to a videography sense or their brand presence, their brand narrative, and now into the vertical space of kind of taking those elements of Tori York that are story structure and implementing them in something that makes sense for the social media world.
And with everything we've talked about today, with all the knowledge and experience you have in the film industry as a whole, what advice would you have for someone wanting to become a production designer like yourself?
Read lots of books, go for coffee with people that are smarter than you or know more than you. One of my favorite things to do is ask my friends that are ahead of me in their careers or do different things than me or just like live different lives than me completely, is to go for coffee and ask them what they're reading, ask them what they're doing. Just sit
Take an
there
interest
and
in their
yeah,
lives?
just take an interest in the world you live in. And I mean like a real interest. Notice what color the concrete is. Notice whether or not there is graffiti. Notice whether or not the way that your window looks in bright daylight versus a stormy day is different. You start looking for the little nuances of color and style and texture in everything that you do and what works and what doesn't. Start thinking about what you like and why you like it. Start looking at like what are you drawn to and why. A big thing for me is color theory. You'll eat way more food if it's on a red plate. So I use color theory in like everything that I do of what am I trying to say about this person or about this environment, about this thing, about this space. What am I doing with an audience when I'm creating a space? Am I trying to make it feel claustrophobic? Am I deliberately trying to make an audience feel a certain way in a moment? Those are all things that you start paying attention to. Watch how people behave in a room. Think about who gravitates to the couch versus who gravitates to the snack table. How does that action shift, right? How does that change your character? What does that tell you about people in regards to building out a world? One of my favorite things is that Anton Chekhov used to go around with a little notebook in his pocket and used to write down little bits of people's conversations or like what the day was or what people were wearing or what people did. And that informed so much of his naturalist, you know what I mean, realism in regards to playwriting, in regards to that shift from, you know what I mean, big French comedic scenes and, you know what I mean, our French exits of opening and closing doors and scenes just sort of happening and asides and stuff, to really living into a space, to people living into their moments in acting. And so I think when you take that approach to design and start thinking about what is a lived in space, you know what I mean? What is it past just a boy bedroom, okay? There's a big difference between a boy who likes dinosaurs and a boy who likes hockey.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a big difference between a boy who likes anime and a boy who likes football. And maybe they share some crossover there, but finding those specificities, finding the difference between somebody that likes Coke and somebody that likes Pepsi. They are different. You know what I mean? Finding those nuances of characters and who they are or what kind of secrets they keep or what they hold dear, I think is the difference in storytelling for an audience.
Okay, so the idea is to just be more curious and more abstract in the lives you both live in and witness.
Yeah, be curious about your world. You know what I mean? Be curious about things just past you. Be curious about the world other people live and be careful not to get caught in your own world all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely notice that like when I look at things and I take an interest, I'm curious about like why am I interested in that thing?
Yeah, I think that what piques our interest tells us a lot about where we are and where society is. The other thing I can say is if you want to be a designer, read so much, because there's so much out there in regards to design. There's so much out there with what can help you for tools. There's so much out there in regards to cool things that people make and do and create. And that's part of the joy of the job is like 1 month you might be dealing in miniatures and the next month you might be dealing in blood, guts, and gore and everything in between. You know what I mean? Read and learn and play and do as much as you can. And don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? Run towards it, not away from it. Every challenge is just a new skill that you get to learn. It's just a new feather in your hat. It's just a new fun thing that you get to figure out. And the reality is, you live in the age of the internet. There's so much research. There's so much there. There's pretty much nothing you can't go teach yourself on the internet if you have enough patience.
And so many different ways in order to figure out that information. For example, I use Chat GPT in order to learn various concepts like how to paint, how to play the guitar, all sorts of different things, how to make food. Because honestly, watching a video could be confusing.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT is phenomenal for as a base time. You know what I mean? As putting in that scaffolding for tasks like that of like, how do I mix this thing up? How do I install this? I mean, it will give you a great baseline. It will also help point you in the direction of YouTube videos. Even if you're somebody that like needs an example or needs to see a video by doing, you can have chat list you out those videos. You know what I mean? So for instance, we were brainstorming as to how to build different items for this movie that we're working on for different stunt stuff. And we absolutely, you know what I mean, researched YouTube videos. We absolutely pulled previous examples, previous photos. We worked with ChatGPT to make sure that everything was tracked properly. We were working on all sorts of different platforms because there's so many resources out there. You know, on average, I'm probably using 10 different subscription softwares a show.
Wow.
So like the volume is crazy of like what you have access to. So learn it, use it, you know what I mean? Get good at spreadsheets, get good at numbers, get good at learning the softwares that are going to make your life easier. You get good at the research part of the job. It doesn't go away. It only helps you. So those skills that you're learning in school of like how to research, how to do the paperwork, how to organize stuff, they're not there for no reason. They're the practice for when you get into the real stuff over here.
Because the theory is so much different than the actual practice of the thing, regardless of whatever skill that may be in life.
That's exactly it. Those homework assignments, that take-home work, that's the prep work. You mean that's the work that you are doing in the off hours by yourself that help you perform as a designer.
That is such amazing advice, and I gotta thank you so much for coming on to my podcast, my first ever podcast ever, and it's been a fantastic experience with you, Sarah Nicole Lang. I gotta ask my final question. What are some projects you're currently working on, and is there any ones that are exciting we should be looking out for?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has actually been really fun. I haven't done a podcast in a hot minute, so it's nice to be back. Projects I'm currently working on. Yeah, Be My Love, which we shot here in Hamilton with Precious Metal Productions, which is launching their first feature film here in Hamilton. They both are sit on the Hamilton Film Board as well, which is really exciting. It's nice to see homegrown productions here in Hamilton. That premieres in the US on the 11th of April and premieres in Canada on the 12th of May. It's on Super Channel, I believe, here in Canada. Infiltrate comes out, which is a movie that we shot a couple years ago, but will be out on Amazon. That should launch this month. And then we have, always stuff in production. We learned that we're going to have some movies here for Christmas in July. So we'll have 2 movies out then. Their names have changed, so I can't remember what their new titles are now that they've been sold. But they'll be on the lookout for that. And then we have all sorts of stuff coming down the pipe in regards to verticals. So The Glass King should be out inside of the next 3 months or so. And that'll be out on all streaming social media platforms. We have By Refringence, we have Hello Happiness, we have In Lieu of Flowers. All 3 short films are headed out the door for film festivals. So just to name a few, there's a lot of work coming out, which is exciting. So, you can find stuff that I've made on streaming networks. You can find it on your TVs. You can find it on your phones. Again, you just mentioned the Juno Awards, which just came out. D-Brand is launching their new commercial campaign. We just got word on that today for Touchgrass. So I'm sure that you'll see my work out and around. And if not, you can catch me on my social media at Sarah Nicole Lang on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, but not really. I should spend some more time there, I'll be honest. But it was lovely chatting with you, and thanks so much for having me on.
Well, thank you so much. You're my first guest ever here on The Creative Frame with your host, Ryland McEvoy. It's been such an amazing experience. I really do hope we get to say in a year or two, who knows how many ever years, come back and have new discussions about what you've done since then, or now technically.
I would love that. I will keep my calendar open. You tell me in 2 years when we were going to have some time, but I love that. I will absolutely do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You're listening to The Creative Frame with Ryland McEvoy.